speaking of authoritarianism, we've got some updates for you from our neighbors up north, and they are deeply troubling.
Our neighbors to the north, I don't know what's happening in Canada. It's deeply sad. Let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen. We'll start with the news, which is that the Ottawa police are warning occupiers, quote, leave now as the protesters dig in. This is after Canadian Prime Minister has gone ahead and Justin Trudeau has declared a state of emergency, has suspended civil liberties whenever it comes to government actions that are taken. And Krystal, before we even get into the media doxing of private donors who gave money through a website called Give, Send, Go, which was then hacked and had their donor list leak, and now we have media organizations contacting them. You were telling me this morning about some of the financial warfare that the Canadian government is undertaking. Could you outline that for people? I want people to truly understand what's happening here.
This is some of the most insane shit I have ever read. This comes from the CBC. They say banks are moving to freeze accounts linked to convoy protests. Here's what you need to know. So this comes under the Emergencies Act, which of course we explained to you on Tuesday is an extraordinary maneuver to invoke the Emergencies Act. Trudeau is the first prime minister ever to do so. They considered it for COVID, decided that was too extreme. But to deal with a protest, they have now decided to invoke the most extreme and sweeping powers of the Canadian government. And as part of that, they are asking banks to not just freeze the accounts of people who are supporting these protests or either giving money or just participating in the protests. They're saying credit cards should be canceled, that they should be completely debanked. So your mortgage could be canceled. If you're applying for a mortgage, you're certainly not going to get one. Even things like with your accounts frozen, things like alimony or child support payments may not go out. And these banks are also completely exempt from any liability if they target someone and completely screw them financially who wasn't even involved in the protests. So banks are given carte blanche to debank, freeze the accounts, and make them completely so that they can't have any interaction with the financial banking system.
Yeah, welcome to China. This is called social credit system. This is what it is.
Totally insane. And so, and they're being pressured also to do this. So not only do they not face liability if they screw it up, not that they should be doing this to anybody, but they're being pressured to cut off the financial support because Canada's decided the minute that they messed with U.S. trade, man, the hammer came down. And these are tactics, the likes of which I have never, ever seen. Now, I will say, Saagar, I looked up because I was curious, some of the polling around how Canadians feel about all of this. And specifically with regards to the military being brought in to deal with the protests, 64%
surprised me.
Agreed with bringing in the military. So I'm not going to say that there isn't significant support in Canada for some of these actions, but think about what this means. They are designating even people who are small dollar donors as terrorists. We're about to talk about the way these people have been doxxed. Some of their businesses have been harassed and been forced to shut down, all because they sent a little bit of money or showed up to a protest of a cause that they believe in. And again, their cause is not particularly my cause. It doesn't matter. What they're asking for, their core demands, are totally a legitimate line of inquiry and protest and debate. And I do not care where you are on the political spectrum. We have got to stand against the idea of using the military, making arrests, invoking something as sweeping as the Emergencies Act, and then freezing people out of the banking system altogether.
Ruining their lives.
This truly seeking to destroy their lives. It's so insane. I can't even believe that this is real.
Yeah, and look, if you're Canadian, I mean, I would just implore you to think about the principle and the precedent that is being set, because from our perspective, this is totally nuts. I want to give major props here to Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who spoke out yesterday about the media effort to dox some of these small dollar donors. And I previewed some of this, but this is something I found myself at the center of the storm somehow, which is that the Give, Send, Go, the Christian fundraising site, had its website or its donor list hacked as to who gave money to the Trucker Freedom Convoy fundraising effort. some of these people now are being doxxed and contacted by the media who are using that hacked email list to reach out to them. And one of them was actually a Canadian-based outlet who published the name of a woman and her business who is now being harassed because she gave $250 to this protest in Canada. And Ilhan Omar, to her eternal credit, spoke out for this. Let's put this up there on the screen. She says, quote, "I fail to see why any journalist felt the need to report on a shop owner making such an insignificant donation rather than to get them harassed. It is unconscionable and journalists need to do better." She is 100% correct, and it takes a lot of courage for her to say what she did, because I bet you she's getting a lot of pushback. And you know, I can say this because I found myself too now in the center of the storm. I was minding my own business yesterday, and I got a message from a person who watches this show. This person donated $40 to the Freedom Convoy. $40, okay? Just happened to support the cause. An American citizen exercising his right. It's his money. The donor list gets hacked. And what does he show me? He shows me an email from the Washington Post who is contacting him. Let's put this up there on the screen. I have the exact email here, which he provided to me. Quote, "My name is," and I'm not going to give you the name of the reporter because this person asked me to take out identifying information. "I am a reporter at the Washington Post. I am writing about leaked data on Give, Send, Go contributions to the trucker convoy in Canada. Your name and email addresses are associated with a $40 contribution. Could you please tell me if this matches your records and either call or reply to this email to share what motivated you to contribute to this campaign?" Now, Krystal, imagine you are an average citizen who is sitting out there, you privately donated money, your name has now been leaked, and now a Washington Post journalist is contacting you. Let's say that you work in an apolitical environment. You're terrified. Your name could be published over a $40 donation to a cause, a private political cause that you believe in. You could lose your job. You could be socially ostracized. Your kids, parents, friends, or whatever may not want to talk to you anymore. You didn't ask for this. It is a free country. And to watch the response to this has been unbelievable to me. So the tweet went very viral, which I frankly did not expect. And here's what ends up happening. I find myself at the center of a political storm because almost every journalist in America decides to start attacking me, saying, "Oh, you've never heard of reporting before? This is called reporting." Okay, number one, if Fox News was using a hacked donor list of Black Lives Matter donors and contacting them, we all know what all of you would say. And by the way, I would agree with that. I would absolutely agree with that, which is I don't think private donation lists, especially small dollar donors like this, should be targeted, harassed, or have their names exposed in any way. Number two, here's this. What happened to Twitter's hacked materials policy, Krystal? WikiLeaks and all of that was deemed state propaganda. Oh, we can never report on hacked materials. They're very comfortable reporting hacked materials and exposing the names of, once again, normal, average citizens. You want to count them after Krystal and I? That's all part of the game, man. I'm used to it. I have a show here. I'm very lucky I'll be able to talk to it. If you're a public figure or a billionaire or whatever, it's all good. You're in the square. You're in the debate. But a normal person out there, $40, the sociopathic response to this, Krystal, has been, Saagar, you're an idiot. There's nothing wrong with what's happening here whatsoever. No. In this country, in the year 2022, to have your private political activity exposed as a normal citizen, that is an act of harassment. You could lose your job. And if you don't understand that, you need to ask yourself, why is trust in media so low? I'm repulsed by the response to so much of this and the lack of empathy for a normal person living their lives who is getting harassed and doxxed. I mean, I
wanted to send a small modicum of support to a cause they believe
it's a free country.
And you know, here's something too. This individual gave with the expectation of anonymity.
Yes.
You know, if you're giving a political contribution, you know the rules, you know the dollar amount threshold above which your name is going to be publicly available and all of that. But these individuals gave with the expectation of anonymity. And also, it's very clear, you know, what is already happening to some of the people who have been publicized, not just their name put on the list, but then their names publicized and, you know, written up about in news articles. So it's a very real concern. And I also think it just exposes how sad the press is that, like, you know, there are huge, consequential power-based stories involved with this protest. And you're going to spend your time chasing down some $40 donor and harassing them about why they gave to this cause and what motivated them and all of that. And we don't know whether, this person's name would end up in a story with their motivations exposed and subject them to all of that scrutiny that they never wanted and never asked for. So there's such an instinct, because it's so easy to write these punching down stories about the bad individual citizens and how evil they are and how wrong they are. And there's no consequences, because these people, they don't have the money for like lawyers to fight back and protect themselves and all of this. Whereas if you're punching up, this is part of why the Jeffrey Epstein thing was never exposed, which, by the way, we're going to give you an update on all of that.
Yeah, it's coming
tomorrow.
This weekend, guys.
Yeah.
We had so much in the show.
There's a lot
the Prince
in the
Andrew
show.
thing will come, I promise.
Yeah, we've got Prince Andrew thing. I think it's going to drop tomorrow.
Yeah.
Anyway, but to do that, that takes some courage. That might take going against your social circle. That certainly takes going against somebody who has power and influence and money to fight back. So they choose this cheap and easy approach. And what ends up happening then is, the dynamic that plays out across partisan media, where it's all about demonizing the individual citizens who happen to have an ideology that your core audience doesn't agree with. Everybody is trained to hate one another, and you end up with a really ugly society. So this is like a microcosm of how they've gone so wrong. What are you doing, spending your time on chasing after these small dollar donors instead of asking, what are the banks going to do here? What's Trudeau going to do here? What are these big tech giants going to do here? And then on the Twitter thing, I'm not the first to point this out. The whole reason that the Hunter Biden laptop story was totally censored, New York Post's account was suspended. They lost their minds over, you can't report, or you can't link to, you can't tweet about the Hunter Biden laptop stuff, was because it was hacked materials. People are straight up. The Hunter Biden thing wasn't even really hacked materials because it was on his laptop, whatever. But we should have been able to talk about it nonetheless. But people are directly posting the link to and outing names on Twitter based on clearly hacked materials. And Twitter has done nothing.
And that's the president's son.
Nothing.
He got more protection than normal people out there working stiffs.
Yes.
He's a multimillionaire.
Exactly right. So Twitter hasn't responded to requests for comment about why there's such a blatant, incredible double standard here. Their policy says something like there's an exemption if it's hacked materials that, were journalistically reported on and have to do with holding power to account or something like that. Oh, yeah. Is this holding power to account? These people who gave like $20 to a cause, is that holding power to account? It's disgusting. It's really blatantly dishonest. It's blatantly biased. And this is why we are always pushing back against the idea that these companies should have the ability to pick and choose how they handle these situations.
100%. Well, obviously, we need principles and all that. But just, if in the off chance that any member of the mainstream press is listening, ask yourself why nobody trusts you. Ask yourself why this show is doing so much better than you. And here's the reason. Normal people are fed up and they're terrified. They're being targeted for their private political beliefs. They're being demonized. These banks in Canada, last time I checked, we have the same banks. Why don't you go ask JP Morgan and all those other people, are you complying with this policy? Has the United States government give you any instruction in order to do so? That would require, as you said, actually going and facing the billionaires, who, by the way, sponsor a lot of these people who are also in the media. So, look, I'm always going to stand up for these people. I know you are as well. Any of these activists who are out there, so not even activists, normal citizens who just felt like they wanted to give money to a cause that they believe in. It's a cause of freedom, like in terms of defending their right to be able to privately want to engage in this behavior and not face immense political pushback. And if you don't get that, you're a sociopath. That's what I discovered yesterday. Many of these people are sociopaths.
How is it controversial to send in money to a political cause about just like, hey, we want to change our COVID policy? This is not crazy. This is not radical. In fact, here in DC and in states across the country, blue states and blue cities are rolling back a lot of these, mandates and mask requirements and all of those things. Like, they're not really demanding anything more radical than what's being done in a lot of blue cities and blue states right now. So it's this derangement around the trucker protest is really wild. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.